Sydney. Sydney is actually a very good place to live. I got an incredible opportunity to explore my life and learn from it. It's been 2.5 years in Sydney, but I still feel like I just came here last month. I landed on this beautiful city of Sydney on 7th July 2017. One day, I was just roaming around the city of Town Hall. I went to KFC and ordered a Zinger box. While I was eating, I noticed some of the staffs working on KFC. They were of very young age, probably 15 or 16 years of age. Seeing those children working, I was quite surprised at the beginning. After some days, I came to realize that in Sydney, people start working in their early age, from 15, 16, and someone even from 13, 14, and on for their own expenses once they become a teenager. Especially when they have summer holidays, I saw school children working part-time and earning extra bucks. And that really fascinated me. It made me think for a while, and I went back in my teenage life. मलाई अझै पनि याद छ, when I was in 6th semester of bachelor, one of my friends asked me to take some classes for his 8th standard in his dad's school. And I also did tutoring for some SLC appearing students who were preparing for SLC in one of the private education institutions. Honestly, that was when I actually earned my first income in my life. Before that, I was totally dependent upon my parents for each and every expenses of my life. I didn't have enough money to go out with my friends, so I had to think before I go out. Honestly, it was so awkward to ask for parents every time I go out. Every time I asked for some money, my mother used to start her story from her childhood. हाम्रो समयमा त यति दुःख थियो, अहिलेको बच्चालाई के थाहा छ र? हाम्रो छोराछोरीहरू त सुखमा हुर्केका छन्. You know how typical Nepalese mother speaks. After living 2 years in Sydney and experiencing the life here, today I realized that हाम्रो conditioning नै त्यसरी गरिएको रहेछ, where we are told to go to schools, read well, get good marks, and get a good job in a big organizations and live a happy life. In my time when I was in school, doctors and engineers were only the big dreams, and it was the big thing for me. Besides that, nobody talked about any other career fields like today, where we have lots of options. I still remember when I expressed my desire to do a management degree after schools, one of my school teachers suggested me to go for a science based on my SLC grade, and I did the same. But honestly, right now, I feel like life would have been different if I had chosen the path of my own. Anyway, there is nothing to regret now, because I believe every experience is a learning in our life, and there is a reason for everything. Hello and Namaste. Welcome to my first episode. This is Niraj from Sydney, and you are listening to Sydney Reflect, the one and only podcast where you will listen to the experiences of international students living in Sydney. The main purpose of this podcast is to share the knowledge and the learning that we get from our experience as an international student in this beautiful city of Sydney. A couple of weeks ago, while I was using my Facebook, I saw some negative comments, trolls regarding the international student life in Sydney. Back in my country, Nepal, there has been criticisms and different kinds of thought. You know, that halla, हुन्छ नि हाम्रो समाजमा अस्ट्रेलियामा त यस्तो पो गर्दो रहेछ, त्यस्तो पो रहेछ यार, blah blah blah. At some point, it is hard, and honestly speaking, there might be a situation where we have to do the things that we don't like. But I believe that's how we learn to live our life by our own. That's how we learn about life and how we learn about taking full responsibility of our life. नेपालमा आमा बुवाको कमाइमा बसेर मोज मस्ती गरेको जस्तो कहाँ हुन्छ त यहाँ? It's not like that we come to Sydney and our life will change in the very first day. We have to really work hard because this is not where we were born. It's a completely a new place and it's really challenging. But it's an opportunity to explore our life. It's our choice to come here, then it's our responsibility to figure out a way to success. There are thousands of international students from all over the world here in Sydney. Every one of them have their own stories, their own experiences. Some of them might have a very good experience, while some of them might have a very bad experience. And it's okay to have any of them. There is nothing wrong to have a very bad experience because the more important thing is what we can learn from it. I'm from Nepal and I recently graduated from CQ University Sydney campus. I have a very bad experience and I have a very good experience in Sydney, and I'm okay with that because those experiences have given a valuable lessons in my life. When I was back in Nepal, I already made up my mind that I will be sharing my experiences of Sydney as an international student, and I did that through sharing in my personal blog. But now I want to make it more accessible through this podcast to the people like you who loves listening to other experiences and want to learn from them. Because, as someone said, smart people always learn from others' mistakes. They don't have to experience each and everything in their life. And that's so true. Once again, welcome to this first episode. On this episode, I will be reflecting on one of my experience that I recently had. It was a kind of bad experience, but it was worth it because I actually experienced how it felt like to be like that, and I'm sure many international students have experienced it, but they hardly share it. I have so many experiences to share with you guys, but that is not possible on this single episode. So I will be sharing each and every learnings in my upcoming episode. But before starting further, let me tell you one thing, that everything I'm sharing here is totally based on my personal experiences, how I felt and what I've learned. There's no such things like this is only the right things, because for some other, they might feel in a different way, and it's absolutely okay with that. And also, just let you know that I'm not giving you any suggestions, I'm just sharing my experiences. I'm not a successful person or someone who has achieved big thing in Sydney. I'm a normal person like you guys who just completed his master degree and still struggling hard to find my way. I know most of us feel like, let me be a successful person or achieve my dream first and then I'll share my stories. But I don't feel so, because I believe we don't have to be a successful person to share our learning. We just need to be open to share. I want to share this because I'm pretty sure most of us who come by themselves alone in the Sydney would probably know how it feels like to be alone, in the sense who don't have any relatives in Sydney and who have very less friends to hang around. And more importantly, if you are an introvert like me, then it's really difficult. I graduated this July 2019 from CQ University Sydney, and then as everyone, I was applying for my graduate visa. Besides that, I was applying for the jobs in the field I'm looking to work forward. But I was getting rejected from every applications I applied. At the same time, when I talked back to my family in Nepal, they used to remind me about our financial conditions, about what neighborhood said to them, about my age getting older. You know, what a typical Nepali mother always worry about. This and that, blah blah blah. When you are the eldest son of your family, then you know how it feels like to have all those pressures. At Sydney, I'm trying to build my career following my passions, but at another point, I was having all this kind of pressures which created a fear on me, and I was really getting frustrated. I don't mean to say that my parents gave all this sort of pressures, but as we know, when we see all those things to do list in our life, and we are still confused where our life is going, we get frustrated and worried. When we don't see what to do clearly further, there will be fear of failure and we start losing hope. It was the same moment for me. So I was really struggling inside. I didn't share about this kind of stuff going on in my life because as an introvert, I really find hard to express all my feelings. I started losing my energy, my interest in the things that I used to enjoy before. I didn't talk to anyone properly. I didn't have that excitement going work just like before. I felt upset and worried every time, and it was killing me daily. My friend used to call me, but I didn't receive their call, and I'm so sorry for that. I was totally aware of what's happening to me. But the thing was, I was losing my hope. I was not able to fight back with all those kind of pressure. There was a time when a guest was in our house, but I was struggling inside my mind, sitting inside the bathroom and crying out loud. Really, that was the worst moment of my life. But one thing I did right, and that was I kept on sharing my feelings on my Instagram. I was so happy to know that there are people who care about my well-being, because after seeing my post, some of my friends actually called me and texted me. They were worried about me. They were trying to give me a hope back in my life, because they know it wasn't me whom they used to see before. After suffering for some weeks, one day I started realizing that this was not good for me. This was not what I came here for. I need to fight back. I need to bounce back and move ahead. This wasn't me who used to be always optimistic about the future. I was the one who used to motivate others, but this time I was really suffering. One of my friends texted me saying, "Fall down 7, get up 8. So I feel like I need to get my ass up. Since then, I started building hope on me again. Started listening to this inspirational videos, self-help podcasts, and started building positive thought. Then I felt so grateful to be here in Sydney and learn so much in my life. Honestly, so many people are dying to come here in Sydney. But I'm here in Sydney. I feel like this was something I should be happy for. I should be grateful for. Believe me, I wouldn't have that confidence in sharing my experiences through this podcast in front of you. In fact, being an introvert, I have done such things here in Sydney that was not in my comfort zone, and that helped me to build my confidence in my life. Today, from this podcast, I want to apologize for all of my friends, colleagues, and family for my any behavior that might hurt you. I'm really sorry for that moment. Today, I also feel like there might be so many other international students in Sydney who might have the same pressures, same bad feelings, anxiety, frustration like me. I have seen so many international students suffering from anxiety leading them to depression, but they never share it. A recent research shows that the number of international students suffering from depression is actually very high than what it is. Let me repeat you again. A recent research shows that the number of international students suffering from depression is actually very high than what it is. Because most of the international students never share it and never show that they have a depression. The research also found that the number of international students committing suicide due to depression is increasing every year in Sydney. It really makes me feel very bad knowing this fact, because I believe if there was someone who could create a small hope in their life, then probably most of them never would have done such things in their life. One of my friends always says that whenever there is thought of suicide in his mind, he always remembers his parents and think about them. And it helps him to get rid of that negative thought of suicide and create a hope to live for his parents who have done so much for his life. Actually, what I found was that most of the international students, especially from Southeast Asia, they have a very big expectation while coming in Sydney. But when they actually face the reality, it becomes very hard for them to accept that. As an international student, we have to attend classes, submit our assignment, pass the exams, and do the part-time jobs. So it's so challenging to keep us motivated daily in our lives in the beginning days, and even do the things that we don't want to do. We might don't know where we are heading to, and sometimes we have a doubt with ourselves. But we have to accept that this was our decision to come to Sydney. घरमा आमा बुवाको डेली कचकचकच सुन्नुभन्दा त कहिले यो घर छोडेर अस्ट्रेलिया जान पाए त हुन्थ्यो भनेर सोचेको त याद छ होला नि. So it's our responsibility. I understand that it's not easy here, but I can see so many international students making progress in their life in this Sydney. Sometimes we don't want to get out of our comfort zone and keep on criticizing the systems or other circumstances for not getting what we wanted. I still remember during my childhood, I used to criticize my parents because we don't have a television in our house, and I always have to go neighbor home to watch favorite cartoon shows like Moomin and serials like Chandrakanta, Om Namah Shivaya. And I used to compare my parents with other parents and wish them to be like them. But today I realized that there was nothing wrong with my parents. They did the best to make my childhood happy. From this episode, I want every one of you to say one thing, that wherever you are, whether you are in Sydney as an international student, pushing yourself daily to get your success, even doing things that you don't like doing, or traveling in a train, or just sitting at home, or whether you are in Nepal trying to come in Sydney, or someone whose visa got rejected recently and feeling sad, or listening to this podcast right now, I want to tell you, every one of you, remember one thing, that failures are temporary. Everything happens for a reason. You just need to figure out why. Let's face it. I know this was our decision to come to Sydney and explore our lives. Then why worry? Why not explore the life and the opportunity around here? Before coming to Sydney, I promised myself that I will not only focus on my study here, but I will definitely go beyond my studies, because I want to experience different things in my life. So from the very first day of CQ University Sydney, I started taking part in different events and workshops. Let me tell you what I have done in these 2 years. This might be the small things for you, but that's a great achievement for me. I took part in the Pathway to Success workshop. I was engaged with International Student Cafe. I participated in Executive Coach in Resident workshop. I was selected for the CQ University Student Leadership Conference in Marina Campus, Gladstone, Brisbane. I took part in Big Idea competition. I volunteer in university in orientation. I volunteer in Story Factory. I ran an election campaign for the University Council. I created a fundraising campaign for Teach for Nepal. I participated in Interchange 2019, an entrepreneurship workshop for an international student. I visited the new place every month in Sydney. I started reading 1 book per month. I started doing yoga, meditations, and believe me, I lose my weight. I was 79 when I landed in Sydney, and now I'm 66. And more than that, I got an incredible opportunity to take part in Ashoka U Exchange that happened in San Diego, California, USA, this 2019 February. I have never thought that I would actually be in USA one day. That was just a dream, but that dream became true here in Sydney. I will be sharing about my USA journey and all of these experiences in upcoming episode, but let me share about my volunteering experience in one of the local organizations, Story Factory. I was desperately looking for an opportunity to explore my life by getting involved in local volunteering experiences. So I found about Story Factory on the internet. What I found fascinating about Story Factory is that it is inspiring the young Australian children to become a very good citizens through storytelling. I still remember in one of the workshops which I took part in Parramatta Centre, students were connected with the problems they care about. Honestly, it wasn't like a lecture. It was something different where young Australians were inspired to become a good citizen and contribute to solve the problems they care about. And I believe that's how their future generations will become well educated. What I have learned from this experience was that during my childhood, my teachers or my relatives or my family, everyone used to ask me what I want to be in my life. I used to say football player or I want to be an engineer. But they never asked me about what problem I want to solve. Honestly, every one of us have our childhood conditioning where we are inspired to become someone else, showing their examples, and we start chasing the dream of becoming them. Now I realized life is not just about becoming someone. It's about doing something that actually solves the problem of society or people around us. It's about adding value in their life. And I believe that's what I'm trying to do here through this podcast, is sharing the experience from this Sydney and helping you guys to learn from it. I want to create a community where we share our learnings with Selfless. Once again, this is Niraj from Sydney and you are listening to Sydney Reflect, the one and only podcast about international student life in Sydney. I hope you guys have got valuable learnings from my experience, and I believe you will share around your circle to inspire others to share their story. Let me share you one thing before I say goodbye. I found this in Facebook recently, which is actually so true, and I have to share with you guys. नेपालमा हुँदा टन्न पढ्नुपर्छ, काम पाइँदैन. अस्ट्रेलियामा हुँदा टन्न काम गर्यो, पढ्न पाइँदैन। नेपालमा हुँदा फलानुको छोरो अस्ट्रेलिया गयो, त हल्लेर बस। अस्ट्रेलियामा हुँदा फलानु त नेपाल गएछ, हामी कहिले हो यार। नेपालमा हुँदा अस्ट्रेलिया त जान दे साला, म जान्छु। अस्ट्रेलियामा हुँदा नेपाल त जान दे, म जान्छु। I'm sharing you because what I have realized is that we are never satisfied with our life wherever we are. So if you are in Sydney right now or back in Nepal or wherever you are in this world, please be happy with your present and enjoy the life. Please don't forget to write your thoughts on the comment box below because your suggestions are valuable to me. In my next episode, I will be back with one of my friends who recently completed his master's degree from University of Wollongong. I believe his experience will be something you need to listen to. Till then, have a healthy and happy life. Keep learning and keep sharing.